Hi everyone, it's Kate from the Fold Line. I am back this week to talk all things sewing bee. How is everyone? Did you enjoy the show last night? I feel like each week is getting more and more bizarre. Is anyone else thinking that? So the theme of last night's show was artist. And so the first challenge that they had was to make a gathered skirt style embellishment on it. They were using taffeta, which is really hard to work with, and then they had to put these shapes on, and they all seemed to be using the same shape, so I'm assuming they were given like a sort of stencil. It was I thought quite tricky in the amount of time and they had to like applique on the shapes, which, I mean, trying to do that under time pressure, and quite a lot of them were curved. Yeah, stressful. Anyway, so it was a very simple kind of skirt, and if you wanted to recreate that, obviously there are lots of different options, but I thought that the Atelier Scamet arpege skirt would work really well with that. It's got the gathering, it's got the waistband, and it also has a bow. Obviously the one on the show last night was quite big and exaggerated. You could make that bigger, but the pattern piece is there for the, so if you wanted to sort of make it wider, you could, but that would be a really good option if you're looking to make a gathered skirt. And this is such a nice thing to make. It's really simple, easy to do. The key with their one was that it was not an elasticated waistband, so it was gathered into a kind of fixed waistband, which this skirt has. So then the next challenge, which I thought was probably the most interesting of the kind of upcycling one, was that they were all given a canvas that a local art student had like painted, and then they had to transform it into something quite sculptural. I thought it was a really fun task. I'd have really liked that challenge if I'd been kind of on the show. I think though it was really hard because some people had canvases that were like coated in paint, loads of paint, which made obviously a lot more stiff and harder to work with, and some people didn't, so that made it was quite, I guess, which canvas you chose made it quite important. Then we moved on to the last challenge, which was an item of like garment inspired by Surrealist art, which was bananas. And I have to say, before we started this, Rachel and I were like, shall we just give up now, because this is going to be so difficult. So we have done the best we can. I will say, some of them were pretty out there last night. Anyone who watched it will agree. So I'm going to get started. First person, Tony W, who had this beautiful red dress. It had kind of big flared sleeves from the elbow and quite fitted. I thought it was really pretty. Pattern-wise, I've found a really amazing vintage one. It's a style pattern, and it's cool. It's number 4322. You can buy these, they're kicking about, but the thing for me that made it feel like it definitely was that is that there was a seam underneath the bust, which his one had as well. So I think that one is right, or again, this is a community project. Let me know what you think. If you think I've got it wrong, I'd love to hear another suggestion, but this one I thought would be a really good option, and there are a few of these kicking about if you really love them. So next up we had Vicky. So she had a skirt and top. The top had a really huge eye detail on it, and the skirt was made out of tulle and kind of like almost like a tutu. The patterns, we've got a couple of pattern options. So the Maxi peplum split tank would work really well. It's got those nice thick bands. Hers one was cropped off to put the eye on it. But we thought this one would work really well for the top part of it. For the skirt, we thought that the Megan Nielsen Brumby skirt would work really well because hers had a structured waistband and it was all gathered in. And there's quite a lot of gathering in the Brumby skirt. So that would work quite nicely if you wanted to kind of recreate the sort of, maybe not with the giant eye for everyday wear. Well, who knows, whatever you want to do. But we thought that one would work really well for her. Tony R made, this is probably the only one that I think we actually got. His was a kind of oversized, it almost looked like an oversized t-shirt, kind of quite relaxed fit, and it was all in black, and he had got some acetate wording put on it. We think that he used the assembly line box pleat dress. We're pretty sure it's right, mainly because there is this big box pleat. There was a big box pleat detail on the back of the dress, which their pattern has, and it had the big wide sleeves that felt like a sort of oversized t-shirt. So I think he did use this. Again, thoughts on a postcard. Love to know what you think. Then we have Mia. She made this really beautiful cloud dress. So it was a very simple little strap dress underneath, and then she had got these tulle and made it into big pom-poms and stuck them all over so that it looked like a kind of big cloud, and then had these beautiful little they were like it was like clear thread with a bead on the bottom, so it looked like it was raining. I thought it was so gorgeous. The dress underneath, because obviously there was a lot of embellishment, we thought that the Friday Pattern Company saltwater slip dress would work really well for this. It had the really fine straps that hers had, and the shape of the neckline looked really similar. So that would be our kind of option for the base, and then obviously you make the pom-poms on top. Lizzie, so she had made this kind of cropped jacket that had big sleeves and it had eyes on both of the sleeves. Looking at the shape, because of the cutout detail underneath the arm, I think she used a kimono pattern and cut it off so that it was cropped, because it had the band around the neckline, which is obviously very traditional in a kimono, and the sleeve, I think she just made it ever so slightly less exaggerated. If you wanted to recreate something like that, the folkwear unisex Japanese kimono pattern would work perfectly. It's got really big sleeves, but there is an option with it to make them a bit less big. So if you wanted to recreate something like that, and actually I thought it looked really nice, the proportions of it as a cropped little jacket. So yes, if you wanted to do that, that would be our suggestion. Lauren's really struggled with. So it basically, for anyone who didn't see it, was a little cropped miniature shirt that was attached on a hanger to the front of the dress, and then underneath was like a big, huge sort of tulle kind of tutu style skirt. But I think it was self-drafted. We looked and we were like, I don't know, unless she used a children's shirt pattern and then created a tutu herself. Anyway, that one, I'd love to know what you think. Fauve, hers, she won Garment of the Week. I thought it was really clever what she did. So her play on it was mixing materials. So she was mixing leather and lace, which, you know, all of us who make know that's an absolute nightmare to do. And she made this sort of, it was asymmetric top with this handkerchief style skirt. So the sort of hem was dipped, and she put the lace on the hem. I thought it was really clever, and she had two pieces and they were sort of overlaid, and it was clever actually. Not found the perfect pattern. I think she must have merged two patterns, but we thought if you liked that sort of dropped handkerchief style hem, the McCall 7315 would be a really good place to start. And then you can start sort of playing around, because the block on that dress is quite simple. It's got bust dart, so you could then cut it off and make it into asymmetric if you wanted to. But we thought that would be a good starting point. Then last but not least, we've got Asma, and she made it was sort of based on snakes, and it had all these twisted pieces going all over her body. Again, I think this has to be self-drafted. There is no, you know, at that point Rachel and I were like, once we saw the plastic snake heads, we were like, we're never going to find this. This is game over on this one. So that is it from us this week. Next week it's Children Week. I feel like we've had a few quite bizarre weeks, so I'm hoping next week we'll come with loads and loads of really great kids wear pattern suggestions, because it was really hard, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. If there's anything that you think that we've got wrong, let us know, because I'd love to know if anyone else had any suggestions on the patterns. So I will see you again next week for hopefully a slightly less mad version of the sewing bee. Bye.